I'm curious if players read that memo, what their reaction was. The ones that are undecided on what to do, whether or not to take the money or stay in the PGA Tour. Do they feel threatened by the PGA Tour and their strong language in that to say, maybe I need to reevaluate this because they're really playing hardball and I've got a pretty good life here. Maybe I should stay here. Or do they read that and kind of snicker and say, yeah, give me a break with some of this stuff. I'm now even more inclined to take the money and run. I don't know, but I'd like to know for, let's just say, Bryson DeChambeau, Ricky Fowler, anyone that's been reported or rumored to have been offered by this LIV Tour to take more money and go play on their tour. What was their reaction to the memo? Was it anything? Were they a little bit more frightened by it? Were they challenged by it to the point where they want to leave even more now? Or was there no response at all? I'd be curious about that. My reaction to reading the memo was, man, the PGA Tour went there. They're really declaring war on the LIV Tour, and they're saying why they are righteous and the LIV Tour is not, and let's go to battle.
It's a good question. The thing that comes to mind first for me is who's the player? And so if just scrolling down here, if Troy Merritt is he's ranked 98th in the world. What's the guarantee money Troy Merritt, and I'm just using him because he's the first American I came across at the bottom of the top 100. What's the guarantee Troy Merritt could receive from the LIV Tour? Because I think those are the guys, a top 100 player in the world, among the best, period, to ever walk the earth is on this tour. And Troy Merritt's one of them. You've likely never heard of him. But for the LIV Tour, that's the type of player they'll sign him and add him to the 19. I mean, it's important for them to point out they have 19 of the world's top 100 players that have signed up. That they want to add to that number. So what's the guarantee worth for a guy like that? If Kevin Na's getting reportedly or rumored to have $30 million, I have no idea what this league will pony up and pay for.
So
ultimately, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, and ultimately, and I'm not looking necessarily at number 100 on the list. I agree that the goal would be let's get 48 of the top 100 players. Mm-hmm. Let's take half of the top of the field. That is where it's a legitimate competition. And the rest can be scrambled to the PGA, however you want to do it. And I'm not saying they're going to get the top 48 players in the world. I'm saying get a mix of 48 of the top 100 players in the world. So if your business model isn't volume, it's quality. We want to get 48 great golfers and good names on our tour. It's not we're going to get 138 of the top PGA Tour professionals that have qualified and got their card and did all this. None of that. You're not going for that many players in a tournament. You're going for 48 so you can have your 12-team system that you have on the LIV Tour, and you can get those guys, and you have that much money. Suddenly that becomes more attainable. If you're just going down the list and you are calculating, all right, what is the guaranteed price for this 17th ranked player in the world versus this 72nd ranked player in the world, and you're going down your list and seeing who you can get to bite at the apple, if you're the LIV Tour.
17th, by the way, Tony Finau.
Tony Finau would be expensive, I'm assuming, for the LIV Tour. But if he says, no, I'm going to be PGA for life, you go to the next one, it's very attainable. If you're just talking about 48 of the top 100, you have split it, right? You have basically taken the PGA Tour and created actual competition.
Yes.
And it's doable when you're not trying to get 130 players.
Here's what I think is the real crux of what the PGA is worried about. First, the television partners in this statement, in this memo, again, Outkick.com for the full memo. Chad, they detail how their media partners they side with the PGA Tour. Well, I think it's important to note, and a better way to phrase it after giving it an hour and 8 minutes, there are about, I would guess, 30 to 35 players on the PGA Tour that keep everything else afloat, if you really think about it. So the golfer that's among the 100 players teeing off that has their PGA card, you may not know about. But the popularity of the tour is really about 35 to 40 players, give or take 10. And I'm not trying to shortchange the guys who are extremely great at what they do, but the public isn't tuning in on a random Saturday to watch
Will Zalatoris.
Well, Will Zalatoris has now made a name for himself because he's been consistently on TV as for the last 3 years as he's been in contention with the guys you're tuning in to watch. So
then what's Will Zalatoris worth to the LIV Tour?
Well, it's worth
right?
It's worth. I mean, Kevin Na's worth 30 to 40 million reportedly. So again, my point is, he's worth what I mean. To me, the worth and the value of the LIV Tour, they'll sign him up in a heartbeat, and they won't even bat an eye at the cash. He's worth so much more to the PGA Tour, but they don't have the backing to keep him, and they're in complete panic mode here because he can just walk, just like all these other guys have, and still play in 3 of the majors. And that is a huge hit to the PGA Tour, even though they have 48 events and they have all these golfers, and they're going to point to how many of the top 100 players are, in their events. That's great. But really, what drives the needle and what keeps everything profitable for a nonprofit is 35 to 40 players. And maybe I'm dead wrong here, but there are guys on tour who lose money on an annual basis, who struggle to actually keep it going for everything they're having to pay for. Coaches, caddies, travel. I mean, it's not like everybody makes a ton of money. So the top players in the entire world are keeping the PGA Tour on track. And now 19 of those guys have just gone over to play with the LIV Tour with 7 events remaining. That's a huge storyline. And that's what the PGA Tour never had. They never had a competitor like this that actually has the financial backing. We always say the city of Nashville and the state of Tennessee has been discussing a Major League Baseball team. The one thing they're lacking is a billionaire. Well, now the Saudi-backed LIV Tour truly has the financial backing. They have FU money to even the PGA Tour, which has been on top of the mountain for decades. That's why the statement of declaring war is fascinating.